right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening to everyone listening and watching. Welcome to African Flava with myself, Anisa Parker. Now, today we will be discussing the rise of unemployment in the country. As you know, the statistics have been released, and our unemployment now stands at 30.1% in the first quarter of 2020. And this has taken an increase from last year's last quarter that was at 29.1%. Now, today in studio, we have three guests who will be speaking to us about this topic. We have Ayanda Kota from the Unemployed People's Movement. We have Simpiwe Kumalo from the Unemployed Graduates Association, and we have Shahid Mohammed, who is from the National Socialist Workers Party. Now, before we get our first guest, Ayanda Kota, who is the chairperson of the Unemployed People's Movement, I want to read something that he wrote. I found this particularly interesting. It was an article, and let me start. It's an article he wrote in 2011. And this is probably one of the reasons why the movement was founded, but we will find that out from him when he does join us. It reads as follows. On the 27th of April 1994, the people of this country stood in long queues for many hours, waiting to cast their vote for the first time. In some parts of the country, the weather was indeed hostile, freezing cold, while in other parts of the country, it was scorching hot. Our people were voting for the first time, voting for an end to racism and for democracy and a better life, for jobs, free education, and a decent housing. Over and above their vote, for their material needs to be met, was them voting for freedom, or so they were made to believe. The rays of that sunshine were breaking through the dark storms of clouds. The first beams of the new sun were making their way through the clouds into the new blue sky. After centuries of oppression, hope was rekindled. A new nation, a rainbow nation, was born, or so they were made to believe. I remember watching the proceedings on television. I saw the Right Reverend, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, casting his vote. The great man then jumped and said, "Free at last, free at last." He was coming on the heels of the former president, Nelson Mandela. Freedom is the ability of the people not to be oppressed and to be able to determine their own future collectively and by their own will. Freedom is the realization that their own future. Freedom is the realization of the will of the people. When there is freedom, the government is for the people and by the people, because the people govern themselves. Freedom is the ability of the people to determine their own destiny. Freedom is self-government. When there is freedom, the people do not have to beg the government to recognize them as important because they are the government. When there is freedom, people are free from hunger, poverty, diseases, homelessness, and an inability to access basic needs. Justice, peace, and dignity, and access to the country's wealth are central to freedom. Freedom means that the people come first. It means people before profit. It means people before the big transnational corporation. It means that the people's sovereignty and rights have been restored. After 17 years of democracy, our townships are broken. All you see is drunken men and women walking aimlessly like zombies, their bloodstream flowing with cheap alcohol. This is how we drug ourselves against the nightmare of a democracy that is really neo-apartheid and not post-apartheid. This is how we drug ourselves against a society that has no respect for us, no place for us, and no future for us. In the Eastern Cape, they drink umshovalele. In KwaZulu-Natal, they drink isikata. In Gauteng, they drink gavani. And in the Western Cape, they drink spirits. This alcohol has a hazardous effect. My people, young and old, have been silently taken to the graves due to the effects of this alcohol. We are poisoning ourselves to drug ourselves against the horrors of our lives. Throughout South Africa, young people smoke antiretrovirals. It is a very well-known thing. We live below the poverty line, and we have completely lost hope. It's quite a lengthy article, but I thought those are just some extracts that I should read to you. And of course, it reads yours truly, Ayanda Kota, the Unemployed People's Movement chairperson in Grahamstown. We will be talking to Ayanda Kota, and I actually find it very interesting. I want to find out from him what inspired the start of such a movement. Yes, we are faced with a lot of issues as a country. I want to find out from him what the movement has championed, what the goals of the movements are. So we'll just wait for Yanda Kota to come with us in studio to speak to us about this. And of course, we will be looking at the issue of unemployment that has risen to 30.1%, which is a first ever. Okay, I'm told that we will be joined with Ayanda Kota a bit later on. So right now we will take some Piwe Kumalo, who is from the Unemployed Graduates Movement, Graduates Association. Sorry about that. And I think this movement is particularly important because it's one that actually champions the unemployment of graduates and separates them from, of course, the general population. Of course, these being a cohort of skilled, educated, certified young people of the country. If we can get some Piwe Kumalo with us in studio for us to begin the discussion. Good evening, Simpiwe, and welcome to African Flavor. Are you able to hear me? Okay, looks like we are having a bit of technicalities, but we will bring our guests back in studio. I don't know, I want to hear from you, what is your thoughts on unemployment in the country? What are your thoughts? Whether it is, whether you're an unemployed graduate, whether you are an unemployed youth in general. And of course, the coronavirus has taken its toll, but the projections we are told are not even the ones that we will see, are not even the projections we see are not even the effects of the coronavirus. And we know that a lot of people have been retrenched, a lot of jobs have been getting lost due to the coronavirus, and those results are yet to come out in the second quarter. But for now, these are statistics that show of the first quarter of this year. So we can only imagine how devastating the statistics will come out. And of course, this is not just a challenge that faces South Africa alone. It's a challenge that's being faced all across the world. Hence, we have movements like the Unemployed People's Movements, like the Unemployed Graduates Association, to tackle such issues that we face as a society, and of course, to put pressure when needed. Let's just see if we can get our guests in studio so that we can begin the discussion. Right, welcome back. We will take the chat to Shahid Mohammed, who is the chairperson of the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party in the Western Cape. Now, I'm very interested to hear his views on the type of work that this party does, as well as their view on unemployment and how to tackle this. Can we get Shahid with us in studio, please? Good evening, Shahid, and welcome to African Flava.
Good evening, Anisa. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you just tell me a little bit? Okay, so we're going to be talking about unemployment. The 30.1%.
Yeah,
Are you able to hear me?
yeah, just online. So let me just.
Okay, so that was Shahid Mohammed. He is from the Socialist Revolutionary Workers Movement. I'm actually very interested to hear what this party actually does and what its take is on the current unemployment crisis. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if we can get the Unemployed Graduates Association with us in studio or the people from the Unemployed People's Movement. It's very interesting to hear once again what they take. Of course, statistics came out and it showed us that in the first quarter of 2020, unemployment is sitting at 30.1%. That is 6.7 million people to 7.1 million people in South Africa. And that is, of course, from the 29.1% from the last quarter of 2019. Some interesting things that I was particularly interested to hear from. Welcome back, Shahid. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can hear you very
Okay,
clearly. Thank you.
right. So tonight we're speaking on the
Okay,
unemployment.
you can go ahead. No problem.
Okay, so tonight we're talking about the unemployment crisis in South Africa. I wanted to get your view on this, and of course, you being from the Socialist Revolutionary Workers Party. I hope I got that correct. I wanted to get the view of the party on the unemployment crisis in South Africa.
Okay, let's make a start. It's a pity about the other guests. I know Ayanda very well, and I've worked with him for a number of years. So we are activists in the field. I just wanted to correct something. I'm an executive member of the Socialist Revolutionary Workers Party. I'm not the chairperson. We operate as a collective. Now, are you still with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, can I continue?
Yes, you can. You can.
Can I continue?
Yes, you may
Okay.
continue. I'd
As long
like
as you
to
can hear
get your
me,
views.
I'll
Yeah.
continue until
Yeah.
you indicate otherwise. Now, basically, okay, no, that's fine. We are part of the broad workers movement, and we believe that the root cause of unemployment is the capitalist system. Now, that means there's a system where the main aim is to exploit workers and to produce for profit,
Mhm.
not for the needs of people. Now, to just give
Mhm.
an example of that, there is enough food in South Africa for everybody, and yet most people are starving. And in
Mhm.
fact, it's on record, and there are statistics out there. You can check it yourself. Every year, a third of the food production in the country is dumped.
Mhm.
Now, that amounts to 10 million tons, and it's mostly dumped by the retailers like Pick and Pay and Spar and so on, and the large commercial farmers. So, in fact, there's enough food for everybody. But they don't feed everybody because if they do that, they can't make money out of it.
Mhm.
So they keep a deliberate scarcity. They keep people in starvation. And that's why they keep most of us in
Mhm.
unemployment. Now, there is a clear perspective on that. The 30.1% is the narrow definition, which is quite scary. So if you look at the expanded definition of unemployment, it's actually closer to 40%. And with the lockdown and many jobs that have lost, you can expect that unemployment will have moved up to 45 or even to 50%. That's the expanded definition. I'll explain for the viewers and the listeners what do we
I was
mean by
just about to
what
ask.
does the government mean, because it's their statistic on the
Yeah.
expanded definition. There are a number of people who actively looking for work, let's say in the past 4 weeks, and they are then regarded as unemployed. So that's 30%. We haven't given up. But then there's a huge number of people, there's 10% of the workforce that have given up, and they are not counted as unemployed. And that's fraudulent on the side of the government, because they're not, they still, they're looking for work, they're unemployed, they've stopped looking. So if you include them and they are people, they're not, off the map, then the unemployment rate is much, much higher. We would say with the lockdown, it's probably at least 50% and more. So on the other hand, the wealth that is being produced in the country is so massive that it can actually feed everybody, and that's what we were demonstrating with the food. So what we are saying, there's been a long fight internationally for the reducing of the working day. When the government ANC came into power, they promised that there would be a 40-hour working week. It's now more than 24 years, and in fact, um, we only have reduced the working week from 46 to 45 hours. So there's a huge amount of work, huge amount of people who can be employed just by that reduction. And we're saying that even that is not enough, because you can reduce working day to a 35-hour working week, which is done in France, by the way. So it's not pie in the sky. It's happening in some countries. And we can say there should be a ban of overtime. And in fact, all the work can be shared among those who can work without loss of pay. Now, why we say there's enough wealth in the country, if you look at the tax on company profits, in 1994, the tax on company profits was 48%. The ANC government reduced that tax to 28%. That's a massive 20% drop. And of which, if you translate that into rands and cents, that's 2 billion rand every year that the government gives back to the big capitalists. And we're saying that the tax rate should be raised back up to 48%. It's not unreasonable, because it was done in 1994. And that money can be used for job creation. And in fact, we believe that there shouldn't be even a single person who's unemployed. Now, that's just the one aspect. Another aspect is that the structural theft that is happening, and it's on record in the Journal of Southern African Studies, that shows that every year, in the days of apartheid, and it's continuing even now. In fact, it was the theft was the biggest in the time of Thabo Mbeki in 2003, when a whopping 20% of GDP was stolen. And if you translate that into rands and cents, just in that 1 year, the large mines and banks stole about 600 billion rand. So that's a huge amount of money. It can create jobs for everybody. So it's by design that the capitalists, together with the government, are keeping people unemployed, while there is enough wealth for everybody to be employed. So that's the tragedy of the system, and we salute efforts like the unemployed graduates and the unemployed people's movement. They are fantastic efforts to organize the unemployed. The only addition we would say is that, if you're unemployed, the only thing you can do is protest and make a noise. You can't really influence the economy. So what should happen, and that's why we're working with the workers, the employed workers, is that the employed workers should unite with the unemployed workers to fight for shorter working week, for shorter working week, for an end to unemployment, which is all possible. So the government is actually being very disingenuous when they say that there's nothing they can do. They know who the thieves are. It's Anglo-American Liberty Life, and all the other major corporates, Old Mutual. And in fact, you hear now and again that all the banks, and in fact even international banks, have been manipulating the currency, and yet nothing happens, to them. They are, by manipulating the currency, they're actually um, reducing our wages on an international scale, and they're increasing the amount of money in dollar terms that they are taking out of the country. So there again are a few hundred billion rands that could be easily brought in and shared with the people, and there could actually be an end to unemployment. So we believe an end to capitalism, and that we need a socialist system not only in South Africa but throughout the world. And we believe that many of the corporations, they use South Africa as a springboard to exploit the whole of the Southern African region. So, for example, Anglo American operates mines in the Congo, the DRC, and there's been a war. There's been numerous wars with the net effect of the wars has been to clear the land and villages. There was the most brutal um, violence. About 6 million people died in a 6 year period. So that was quite horrific. And now those mines that have suddenly opened up, there used to be villages there, and those villages have all been destroyed, and the people have been thrown one side. So, and what is happening, unfortunately, and here's the South African link: Anglo American operating many of those mines there, and they've got child labor. They don't really have labor rights. There's huge exploitation, and in fact, the South African government provides uh, um, the military. They send soldiers every year, and even now there are South African soldiers on those mines in the Congo, where they're providing um, a free security service for Anglo American and other imperialist companies. And they're paying each soldier, and we know some soldiers, so we know, we've confirmed this. Each soldier is being paid 50,000 rand a month from our taxpayer money. So these are the various aspects of unemployment. You wanted to say something, Anisa?
Oh, it was going to bring me to
You've got a question?
what you had spoken about. Yes, what you had spoken about, the capitalist system, and how it's on record that banks and these large corporations have actually, stolen such money from the country during a few years ago. Why is it that they're not held responsible for such actions? Why don't we see them, repaying? I think a few years ago there was the issue with ABSA. Why don't we see them being held to account, even though these stuff are out in the public?
That's a fantastic question, because they should be held to account. And unfortunately, many of the workers' movement, even the leaders of the working class movement, not holding them to account. There have been no campaigns. If you look at organizations like the EFF, they talk about the Zuma, who's stolen maybe 1 billion, and that is for the court. But these people are stealing 100 billion every year.
Okay, I think we've lost Shahid there. Okay, we got him back. I think we've lost him once again.
And they refuse to actually fight. And so what that means, yeah. So what? Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, but I think you were just breaking there.
Can I continue?
Sorry, just before I let you go, there's one question that I wanted to ask you.
Can I continue?
Okay, you can just close up. It's okay. Okay, I think we have lost Shahid there, who was telling us about, the capitalist system and how it exploits workers. And of course, that is the nature of capitalism. They are from the Socialist Revolutionary Workers Party, and of course, they strive to get a socialist system going. And of course, socialism means where the workers own the means of production, where you own what you produce, and of course, their party tackling the big crisis, the capitalist system that we find ourselves in. And unfortunately, I don't think that's a very easy task. But I mean, you have these associations, you have these parties that are coming to play, that are working very hard to, dismantling such systems. If we can get our next guest with us, just to quickly elaborate on what their movement or what their party does. Good evening. We have Ayanda Kota, who is the chairperson of the Unemployed People's Movement. Ayanda, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Anisa. There's a question that you asked from Shahid as to why the government is not holding to account those that are responsible for the capital flight, for the massive theft. And if I were to add on to his response, I would say to you, there is no honor among the thieves. So that would be my simplest question. But I don't know if Comrade Shahidi did speak about the crisis of unemployment. We cannot be ahistorical when we talk about it. Because if we were to trace it and be very honest, we will trace it through the struggles and the frontier wars of land disposition in this country that led to the legislation of wages. And because as a result of that, and our people were thrown out of their land and due to theft of the common land. So they were forced to go and work. And that working under apartheid, it meant that they could do the mining work. It meant that they could be gardeners. It meant that they could only be mine workers. Because of the system of apartheid that was so racist and capitalist, there was work that they could not do, such as artisan, such as engineering and other work. So even that was quite limited. So that's the history of unemployment in this country. But what has deepened the crisis post 1994, one of the things that has deepened the crisis of unemployment in this country is we have seen the government moving on with what Comrade Shahid was talking about, a capitalist system. We have seen the government privatizing. We have seen government moving towards financialization. I mean, you could talk about your credit and stock market there. We have seen government moving towards capitalization and deindustrialization. So those are some of the issues that has deepened the crisis of unemployment in this country. So that's why we are, and there is no commitment, no zeal on the part of the government to address the crisis of the unemployment. As Comrade Shahid was saying, because I mean, look here, the system of capitalism survives on the misery of the poor. The system of capitalism thrives on the army of the unemployed. As long as you've got a system that is capitalist, you need people that are unemployed so that you are able to pit the workers against each other, so that you are able to create that the workers ought to compete for the crumbs. In that way, you're dealing the right of the workers. One of the issues that I think Comrade Shahidi also spoke about was the unity of the workers, the struggle of the workers and the struggles of the communities, which again, I mean, is fantastic. Comrade Shahidi is quite a fantastic comrade. He's quite correct again. And that the unemployed people's movement, the graduates, the socialist workers' revolutionary party ought to see bridging the gap, the working class in this country coming together and waging these struggles. So yes, I concur with you. But also I must also be able to say on the commitment of the government, there's massive work in this country. If you look at the infrastructure, everywhere you go, it's collapsing. We don't have roads anymore in this country. there's a massive backlog on housing in this country. So, I mean, our roads are carnage. So you need a proper public transport system. So I'm saying there's work in this country if there was a commitment on the part of government, and I mean people could work, they could build houses, people could build roads, people can be bricklayers. There are quite a number of things that people can do, which also dispel the myth and the fallacy of skills, that people in this country don't have skills. Because I mean, the things that I mentioned to you, the kind of work that is available is not a labor-intensive skill. It's. I mean, if there's medium skill, it's what you could refer to as a medium skills. So those are some of the work that people can do. But also, I mean, this country, if this country was to move to just transition, and move away from the fossil fuels to renewable energy. Organizations like AIDC have done an extensive work on the climate jobs that you could create 500,000 climate jobs in this country for those that are unemployed. So yeah, so there's no will, there's no commitment on the part of the government. Even the budget that will be read tonight, or that will be presented by the minister, it will not change the course of history. It will not speak to the unemployment. It will not change the plight of those that are unemployed. So there's no will on the part of government. There's no commitment on the part of the government. But you see a government that is under the thumb of the IMF. You see a government that is under the thumb of the World Bank. You see a government that is the thumb of the bosses. What Marx speak about in his Communist Manifesto, that you've got a government that is the executive arm of the bosses. So yeah.
Wow, that's quite a handful from yourself and Comrade Shahid. And I really like the fact that you unpacked this to the fact that unemployment is not just what we see in front of us. And, you went into the structural inequalities because people don't tend to understand that that is the basic functioning of capitalism. I just wanted to find out from you, do you think that by now, if we were to change the system, the transitional system from the time of apartheid, from a capitalist system, do you think we would have reached, I'm not sure if the aim of your unemployed people's movement is more of a socialist stance, but do you think that the 25 or 26 years transition from apartheid, do you think that would have been enough to transition from a capitalist state into a socialist state?
Well, one, we understand UPM that there's a need to reorganize the economy. We are not naive to think that we are fighting for jobs, because I mean you've got an economy that is shedding jobs. It's a bloodbath jobs, an economy that is just bleeding jobs. So we are not naive to think that, I mean, all of us, you can never fully, I mean, we must also forget about the concept of full employment. I mean, we must forget about that. But in terms of transitioning, yes, we believe you need to reorganize the economy. You need to have an economy that can meet the needs of the people. You don't need an economy whose curious feature is profit. That's the kind of economy that you have today. But again, if we were to reorganize that economy, as I'm saying, there are quite a number of things that you could do. I mean, humanity, one example could be humanity is living under threat because of the climate crisis. That is impacting heavily. I mean, there are so many hotspots, the extreme weather patterns in this country and in the world, which is putting all of us under serious threat. But also it impacts on our water, it impacts on our food, it impacts on our livelihood. So I'm saying you don't need to be a socialist to understand that, to say you ought to move away from the fossil fuels and move towards the just transition. That's number one. But again, you don't need to be a socialist to address the land question in this country. The government has been dragging its feet. They have not been able to address the land question in this country. So I'm saying there's quite a lot that the government could have done. But you've got a government that is thieving. You've got a government that's lazy. You've got a government that is that are pawns of the ruling class. So yeah, you've got a government that is anti-working class. What happened in Marikana was a demonstration of that, when the workers were saying, give us only 12.5 thousand. I mean, that's nothing, that's not the money. Because it's like saying, give us some crumbs from the table of the master. And they were mown down, and they were killed. You've got the likes of Andres Tatana that were killed for demanding water in this country. So I'm saying, yeah, there's just no commitment. You've got a government that is anti-working class. You've got a government that is anti-black. So it is only through our struggles and that we could push and for the society that we want.
Right. Wow. I just want to ask you. Do you think it's fair to? Okay, this is probably going to form my question just before we let you go. Do you think it's fair to pinpoint everything to the government? And also, do you think it's fair to say that the government hasn't done anything, considering the past 25, 26 years? I mean, the country would have collapsed had the government not been, doing anything at all. So do you think it's fair for us to disregard what the government has done in order for us to, reach the milestones that we're trying to reach, your renewable energy, the land question, for example? Do you think it's fair to disregard what the government has been doing? I think that also another issue we face is the legislature and how long it takes policies to be signed in. So I don't know. Do you think that's really fair to pose everything to the government? And where do we step in as people of the country to say, you know what, we're coming in and this is what we're going to do?
Well, I don't think we are unfair, because what we are actually saying, we need a government that will be rested in the hands of the workers, a government that will be rested in the hands of the people, a government of the people, for the people, by the people. What you have currently, it's clearly not the government that's listening to the people. We have been promised a better life, but what this lockdown has demonstrated or unmasked is that we do not have a better life at all in this country. The crisis of capitalism has been exposed. The hunger, the level of hunger, it's amazing amongst our people, that you could have 1 in 4 people going to bed on a hungry stomach, plus minus 40% it's food insecure. So there is no way that we can say the government is doing well under the circumstances. So I think it's not just a criticism, it's quite a fair one to say the government is not doing enough. But in terms of what we can do as people, look here, people don't pay tax to us. We don't own the resources of this country. The government are the custodians of that. So it will be unfair to say, and the people ought to do something. What are they going to do? People are unemployed. What are they going to do if you're unemployed? You don't have, let alone the question of resources. You can hardly put a bread on your table, and you'll be told, wake up and do it for yourself. Or it is unfair to criticize government constructively. People ought to be doing things for themselves. Well, if that is the argument, then the government must allow us to control, must allow the communities to control the resources. And with those resources, we can do quite better, I'm quite certain. And if we were to be given a chance to control those resources, we would do better. Because even at the level of municipalities, they are so corrupt. I mean, you know the story, how these municipalities have collapsed under the weight of corruption. So I'm saying if those resources could be given to people, I mean, people would do better. As I was saying, if people could be given a chance to build their houses, to build the roads, to take destiny into their own destiny into their own hands, people could do much better. Yes, I agree.
Definitely. Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayanda. I definitely did gain a lot of insight from the discussion we had, and I hope the viewers did. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on African Flavor. Elaborating on the unemployment crisis that not only finds us just at face value, but definitely at grassroots level and the historic inequalities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you.
Okay, so we're supposed to be speaking to Simphiwe Khumalo from the Unemployed Graduates Association. I really want to get a view and a deeper perspective on what's their take of this whole unemployment crisis. Of course, we've heard from Mr. Ayanda Kota and Shahid, them taking it back to structural inequalities, to your times of apartheid and your wage bill, your taxation. Shahid did touch on the fact that companies and big corporations used to be taxed 48%. And of course, taking this money back into the community, and of course back into the fiscus of the government in order to employ more people. It was quite a discussion. Shahid touched on, the socialism aspect of how capitalism is so brutal, where he spoke about a certain portion. I think he spoke about 1/4 of food is actually thrown away each and every year, whereas this food can be given to people that go to bed starving, go to bed hungry. But of course, this is the rot, as he said, of capitalism. Okay, we have Simphiwe Khumalo with us, and I'm very glad that we have him. He's from the Unemployed Graduates Association. Good evening, Simphiwe. Thank you so much for joining me. Are you able to hear me, Simphiwe?
Okay, thank you, Anisa, for this opportunity. And yeah, I have to mention that we are struggling. Yeah, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Hello? Yeah, I have to mention. All right, I have to mention that we are struggling with the issues of network. That is why I connect. But I'm fortunate now and happy that I've finally connected. Yeah, we can resume.
Thank you. Okay, cool. So we have like about 4 minutes left, but I want us to use these minutes to for you to elaborate on what the Unemployed Graduates Association is, why it was established, the projects that you guys are running, the demands that you guys have, and all the goals. I'm all ears, and so are the listeners.
Okay, let me start and say that my name is Simphiwe Khumalo, as it is written in the screen. I'm a spokesperson of Unemployed Graduate Association. Okay, the idea or the movement, Unemployment Graduate Association, it's an organization right now, but it started as a movement. Last year, if you recall very well, last year around on the 2nd of May, we had a march as graduates saying with the slogan of no vote, no job, no vote as graduates. So that march, it actually yielded and also led us into formation of the organization, because we understood and we learned from the march that the only way we can make our views and our demands heard by the government and also by the governing party, it is us being organized organization. The only way that young people can fight for what they want is them organizing themselves. So that was a purpose, that we wanted to organize ourselves, able to fight for whatever we want to fight for. So Unemployed Graduate Association, it's an organization that is centered around the issues of young people that are unemployed, specifically graduates. In South Africa, we have 2.3% of graduates that are unemployed, and also we have 6.8% of other people that have graduated or that have received tertiary education. So as Unemployed Graduate Association, we then advocate for those two categories, the unemployed graduates and also the people that have graduated in other tertiary institutions, as published by the Stats SA yesterday. So the reason that made us this organization was to fight against inequality, was to fight against nepotism that is in the labor market, was to fight against poverty, because every graduate or every student, when they go to school with a purpose of succeeding. Mandela said education is key to success. So every young person aspires to go to school. But it is so unfortunate that the labor market is not ready for them, or the labor market does not accommodate them. That is why we have this organization, that we want to ensure that the labor market, the injustices, the inequalities that exist in the labor market are kept, so that all graduates or everyone that graduates wish of going to employment gets employment. Because if you don't have a brother, or if you don't have an uncle, or if you don't have a grandfather that is at a specific department or at a specific private sector company, you are less likely to get employment like any other person. So that is our reason. And then the project that we are running with a campaign that we call a right to employment campaign. A right to employment campaign, it is informed by everyone having a right to put food on the table, by everyone having a right to have a good well-being and also a good mental state, by everyone ensuring that their living conditions are less favorable, or they are more favorable to a good living condition. So that is our purpose, that we want to ensure that we fight for everyone to get employment. And then those who want to start businesses, we say as Unemployed Graduate Association, we must support them, and we must also try to speak with relevant departments to ensure that they avail funds for those who want to start businesses, because not every graduate wants to go to employed. Some of the graduates, they actually prefer to start their own businesses. So those are our campaigns. And also, we as Unemployed Graduate Association, we have partnered with one of the institutions that deals with reskilling, that deals with ensuring making graduates ready for employment. So the name of the institution is Growth Institute College. So their job is to reskill graduates so that they are ready for employment. Because one of the issues that we face in the labor market of South Africa is that they say graduates are not ready for employment, or they're not employable, or their education system does not make them fit to actually be this institution that is in existence, that has been in existence for some time, helps graduates. So we're in partner with them, and also we're also in communication with the Department of Agriculture, in which we've sent them a database. We have a database as Unemployed Graduate Association. We submitted our database to Department of Agriculture with the hope that they will contact those graduates in which they are linked to agriculture. And we also have some opportunities. When opportunities arises, we look on our database. So in simple terms, in order for you to be a member of Unemployed Graduate Association and also to get these opportunities, we encourage young graduates and also those who are unemployed to go to our Facebook page. We have a link there. We have a link in our Facebook page, which is it's a Google document. It's a Google form. You fill it in, and then after filling it in, automatically we get your information, when you graduated, which course you did. When opportunities arises, we then place people as per the opportunities arising. We are not only focused on the government sector, but we are also focused on the private sector. So we are trying to knock on different doors every day, every month. We are trying so that they can open a space for graduates, even those graduates, there are graduates that have done internships. Right now, 3 years back, internship was only 12 months, but now the government has extended it to 18 months, which is still not enough for graduates to be employed. So some, they do 18 months program and remain unemployable because of the minimum requirement. In most time, in terms of experience, it is 3 years. So those are the things that as Unemployed Graduate Association, we are fighting. We're fighting against the 3-year experience. Where would a graduate after finishing school get a 3-year experience in order for him or her to practice? So we're fighting those things to see. We say government open opportunities for young people. Their people graduate. We must not lie. The Department of Labor has a rule that once you turn 53, you must retire. But in South Africa, that does not happen. For an example, in Parliament, there are people who are above 63. Then you ask yourself why the law is not applicable to them as the parliamentarians than as compared to other normal employees. So we say let it be equality. When you say a person must retire at 63, let the parliamentarians also retire at that age, so that there can be a space for young people. Young people, they need space. Young people go to school to equip themselves so that they can be employable. So those are the things that we are fighting for as Unemployed Graduate Association. And Unemployed Graduate is just have 1 year this year. We're turning 1 year this year because it was established last year out of the movement of no job, no vote. Yeah. So I don't know whether you still have other questions that I need to respond to.
No, you've actually covered all my questions very beautifully there. And I was just about to ask, as a young association, because I've been following up with the association from the time it was established. I remember, No Job, No Vote campaign that the Unemployed Graduates Association had. And I think within a week of calling for CVs, they had already gained momentum. They had already gained, I think, plus minus 5,000 CVs from unemployed graduates. So that tells you how the desperation was and how many unemployed graduates there were out there, and of course the functionality of the Unemployed Graduates Association. Thank you so much to Simpiwe Khumalo for speaking on behalf of the Unemployed Graduates Association. And he is, of course, the spokesperson for the Unemployed Graduates Association. He did list each and everything that the association wants to achieve, their goals, their missions. And for more information, you can go to their Facebook page, which is the Unemployed Graduates Association, as the spokesperson has said, and get in touch with them. If you are an unemployed graduate and you're listening or viewing this, then please do visit their Facebook page. He did speak about a link that you can follow to fill in all your information, and they will link you up to prospective employees. Or employers, sorry. Right, we spoke earlier on we had a very interesting conversation with Shahid Mohammed from the Socialist Revolutionary Workers Party. I hope I got that right. As well as Ayanda Kota from the Unemployed People's Movement. And right now we have just concluded with Simpiwe Khumalo from the Unemployed Graduates Association. Unfortunately, time was not on our side, but I think this was a fruitful engagement, from speaking about the root causes of unemployment. And it's not just what we see at face value. It's not just about getting jobs. It's more about owning the means of production, like the guests earlier have said. It's more about the structural inequalities that we keep speaking about. And of course, we're no stranger to this, because South Africa is listed as one of the most unequal societies in the world. And of course, this comes with the dark past of apartheid. And of course, we still feeling the burns. We're still dealing with the scars of apartheid. I think we need to join forces. We need to join hands in tackling this. I don't think the government alone can, conquer this. It takes the whole country, all the citizens of the country, to move the country forward. And of course, to see a brighter future. The youth, of course, are starting to take control of their future, of our future. And let's just hope that out of this crisis is going to be born something much greater, something much bigger than unemployment. Let us hope that opportunities do arise where the youth, as always, come up with innovative ways, entrepreneurship. We had spoken early on, and I think we will have this as a topic of discussion in one of the African Flavor episodes, your entrepreneurship and how that could be used for job creation. Yes, we have run out of time, unfortunately, but as always, the conversation continues offline. Thank you so much, and Jazakallah, for listening to African Flavor with myself, Anisa. Until next week, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good night.